I'm Liz Faubles, and this is Currents. It's the 2-year anniversary of the deadly earthquake in Haiti, and there's a new effort in Queens to remember lives lost.
Community would benefit from having a place to come and celebrate those lives that were lost in Haiti.
Plus, I'll sit down with the coordinator of the Brooklyn Diocese Haitian Apostolate.
2 years, we had planned what we call Veille de Nuit, like vigil prayer, every first Friday of the month. We have, I will say, up to 400 people that comes.
And faith comes first at an academy in Bensonhurst. It's our latest School of the Week.
Here we can teach our Catholic faith the morals that we find important and the values and the traditions.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. Well, it's hard to believe, but it has been 2 years since the deadly magnitude 7 earthquake struck the island nation of Haiti. Now, the fragile infrastructure in much of the country was leveled, and with it, the livelihood and lives of many Haitians. Well, in the immediate aftermath, family members and recovery workers were not able to find many of those who perished in the quake, but a new effort at One Queens Cemetery hopes to give Haitians a place to remember loved ones who were unable to get a proper burial.
The first day we kept on calling and then we could not get through. On the second day, really, we start panicking. If she was alive, she would even walk to go anywhere to give us a phone call and let us know that she was okay.
January 12, 2010 was a day like any other in Haiti until a devastating 7.0 earthquake shook the island to its very foundations. After the dust of the rubble settled, over 200,000 people would lose their lives. One of that day's victims was 39-year-old Ivna Boaz.
She was in there with the 2 kids and with my grandmother, and the house collapsed. Somebody took my grandmother down from the 2nd floor and my niece, who was 5, and then they didn't see my sister coming out. This is when they realized that she didn't make it through.
Many families would soon face a second heartbreaking reality. Like Lucny Boaz Ostan's family, many would learn that their loved ones were either not found or buried in mass graves, leaving them no chance to offer their dead a final goodbye.
We don't have a closure. You just see the person, you just hear the person, and that's it, it's gone. You don't even have the body to bury. So I think this is why it is hurting us. There's no a place to go and say, if you want to get some type of courage, and then you say, okay, let me go there and let me put a little flower for her and things like that.
Until now. Bonnie Dixon, Executive Vice President of Maple Grove Cemetery in Queens, has been trying to build a memorial for Queens residents who lost loved ones in the earthquake.
Our board of directors was thoughtful enough to think that the community would benefit from having a place to come and celebrate those lives that were lost and those people who did not receive proper burials in Haiti.
While the sudden tragedy of the earthquake caught many unprepared, Father St. Charles Bourneau, pastor of St. Teresa of Avila Church, believes their souls are neither forgotten nor alone.
We know that in God's compassion, God's merciful love, He will do what He does best, showing love to these people who died. When you lose somebody, I lost members of my family in the earthquake. You always think about that person. And I think a memorial would be a good thing for the Haitian people, some place where they can go and grieve and really think about that person.
And while a memorial to Haitian victims of the earthquake may bring much comfort to many, the project is facing an unusual obstacle: getting names.
We want to make sure that people feel comfortable giving us those names. Those names will be only used for the purpose of memorializing those that were lost.
It's been 2 years now, and there are family members who cannot even talk about this. Or if they can talk about it, they would not go to celebrations or memorial masses or in places where they can think about what happened.
But there are those, like Lusni, who long for the day when she can visit a place that honors her sister and all family and friends lost on that tragic day.
Tomorrow will be the anniversary. Let's say that we have a place, then I would go there and pray and put my flower. That will help. And every year I go to the same place and put a little flower. That will help. But I can't go every year in Haiti, or I didn't even know where they had her or anything like that. While we all part, for now, I think we should go and visit until God calls all of us and then we meet again.
Stay tuned, there's more currents ahead. The Supreme Court sides with a church in a discrimination lawsuit. We'll have the details on that and the rest of the day's headlines next. Welcome back to Currents. I'm Liz Faubles. Coming up later, we'll look at an academy in Bensonhurst that's keeping the faith. But first, let's have a look at the day's headlines. Well, in what may be a landmark decision, the Supreme Court has unanimously ruled church employees cannot sue for job discrimination. The case involved a Lutheran church that chose not to reinstate a teacher who took a leave of absence because of a sleep disorder. Now, the teacher argued that the church was using a ministerial exception to ignore the Americans with Disabilities Act. The court ruled that it is in the best interest of religious groups to decide who will preach their beliefs. Catholic bishops applauded the ruling, calling it a victory for religious liberty and the U.S. Constitution. Well, the Archdiocese of Philadelphia has announced that schools will get the chance to appeal announced school closings. The Archdiocese said last week that a special commission recommended that 48 schools be closed or merged. High school administrators and elementary school principals will meet with separate review panels to present their cases. A final list of all schools affected will be made public next month. Well, more deadly violence from Nigeria. Gunmen believed to be part of the Islamist group Boko Haram shot dead 4 Christians fleeing violence elsewhere in the country. An estimated 80 Christians in Nigeria have been killed since Christmas. Last week, Boko Haram issued an ultimatum for all Christians to leave northern Nigeria. Well, from Iraq, police and private security thwarted an attack on the palace of the Chaldean Catholic Archbishop of Kirkuk. Gunmen opened fire on security outside the palace on Wednesday. Guards fired back, killing 2 of the shooters. The Archbishop says the attack occurred just as he was returning home from a parish visit. He says the situation is tense, but he is not afraid. The Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem is calling on locals in his area to help integrate the small Christian community into society. According to EWTN News, Archbishop Fouad Toual made his remarks during a visit to Jerusalem by European and American bishops. Now, the Patriarch says that though Christians make up only 2 to 3% of the population in other Middle Eastern countries, they still contribute to society. The Catholic relief agency Caritas says 4 million people in Somalia are suffering from famine. According to a report from Caritas, the food shortage comes after 2 seasons of inadequate rainfall and a slow response from the international community. Caritas says Somalia's government has also severely limited access to affected areas. And now from Egypt, a Coptic Christian businessman will stand trial after tweeting images of Mickey and Minnie Mouse in Muslim garb. The businessman posted the images last June and apologized. He said the images were only meant as a joke and did not mean any disrespect. Elsewhere, prominent Chinese Cardinal Joseph Zen reaches an important milestone. Rome Reports has details.
Cardinal Zen was born on January 13, 1932. The passing of his 80th birthday marks a milestone in his duties as a cardinal. He will now join the ranks of non-elector cardinals, those who cannot participate in a papal conclave. As the Bishop of Hong Kong, Cardinal Zen often dealt with relations between the Catholic Church and China. In 2009, he sat down with Rome Reports to explain how things have improved and how he has asked bishops to be brave when faced with opposition.
But we know also that today the situation is very different from, say, 20, 30 years ago. If the bishops now abstain from going to such celebration, they are not going to be put into prison. And they are not going to face any danger for their life.
Cardinal Zen has been a priest for over 50 years, a bishop for 15, and was elevated to a cardinal by Benedict XVI in 2006. His pastoral work has made him an expert on relations between the Catholic Church and China. At times, his straightforward approach has caused tension, not only with Beijing, but also with Rome.
Diplomacy is necessary, but you cannot sacrifice everything for diplomacy. Huh? Sometimes you have to tell the truth clearly. Huh? And I think everybody does his own job. Huh? So the diplomats do their job and we do our job. And it's not good to ask everybody to be diplomatic.
He now joins 84 other non-voting cardinals, leaving the number of elected cardinals at 107, although that number will soon jump again when the Pope will name 22 more cardinals on February 18th.
And among those 22 soon-to-be cardinals are New York Archbishop Timothy Dolan and former New York Auxiliary Edwin O'Brien. Well, 2011 was a record-setting year for Vatican museums, which set a new high for attendance. Writing in the Vatican's newspaper, the director of museums says more than 5 million people visited last year. The director says the high number of visitors does present new challenges, though, including keeping down the noise level. Back in this country, the rector of a basilica in Minneapolis says he's concerned at 2 proposed sites for a new NFL stadium. Father John Bauer says he's worried that the fans attending and tailgating at Vikings games could have an adverse effect on church activities. Bauer says he wants the Vikings to stay in Minnesota and hopes the basilica can work with the team to come up with a solution. Well, Miami's Archbishop says he will travel to Cuba when Pope Benedict visits the island nation in March. Speaking with the Miami Herald, Archbishop Thomas Wensky says he's expecting several hundred people from southern Florida to also make a pilgrimage. The Pope will visit Cuba March 26th through the 28th. Well, stay tuned. There's more currents coming up. Just ahead, we'll hear from a priest who's seen the devastation in Haiti firsthand.
It was very, very sad to see the atmosphere, the way people are living. Mm-hmm. It's not, I would say, the proper way a human being is supposed to live.
Welcome back. Well, the massive earthquake that struck Haiti 2 years ago left what can only be described as a path of utter destruction. 250,000 people died, more than 300,000 were injured, and more than 3.5 million people were affected overall. And that's not to mention the many government buildings, schools, churches, and homes that were destroyed. Flash forward 2 years, not much has changed. I had a chance to talk about the situation then and now with the coordinator of the Brooklyn Diocese Haitian Apostolate, Father Jean-Moïse Delva. Father Jean-Moïse Delva, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, before we get into the interview, I really want to congratulate you on your current appointment, and I wish you very blessed success.
Thank you.
Are you very excited?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
We were speaking earlier about you receiving the call shortly after coming out of Hunter.
Yes.
And it's been 5 years of blissful Catholicism in Christ.
Yes, it has been for the past, I would say, 5 years. I went to Douglaston for 4 years and then Hunting for 5 years. And it's been it's my 5th year as a priest. And really I've been blessed, I would say, being a priest and ministering in the sacraments at the parish of St. Joachim. So I answered the call as Mary. She said yes, but I think it has been a blessing for me.
Okay, and you received the call at a very critical time in the Haitian community. As you know, we will be celebrating the 2-year anniversary of a very devastating tragedy.
Yes. That
earthquake, that 7.0 magnitude earthquake that nearly leveled the country. What are you doing in your parish to commemorate the 2-year anniversary?
We're having a mass at 7:30 on Thursday, and then after that there'll be a mass in general for the Haitian Apostolate at 7:30 at Holy Family. Okay. And on Thursday evening. Now
your parish, as I'm sure many have, they've become very empowered by what's called a charismatic Catholicism.
Yes.
It's a prayer that's energizing, it's dynamic, it's deeply spiritual in this form of worship. Tell us how this has helped your community cope.
For the past, I would say, 2 years, we had planned what we call Veille de Nuit, like visual prayer, every first Friday of the month. We have, I will say, up to 400 people that comes to that every first Friday of the month. And we also have like every Tuesday from 7 to 9, charismatic prayer every Tuesday.
You're closely tied to the relief efforts and support efforts in Haiti. I understand that you've visited quite a few times.
Yes.
And you've seen the devastation
Actually,
firsthand.
I went after the earthquake, Bishop DiMaggio sent me, myself, Father Miguel, and Father Beret, and Father Calange for a month in Haiti. So we stayed there for 1 month. It was very, very sad to see the atmosphere, the way people are living. It's not, I would say, the proper way a human being is supposed to live. But I think now things are getting better after 2 years.
Having said that, a report from ABC News suggests that UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, former U.S. President Bill Clinton, which, as you know, is the UN Special Envoy to Haiti, others vowed that the world would help Haiti build back better. $2.38 billion has been spent, but Haitians have hardly seen any building at all.
Yeah, it's true. I visited myself 3 times. I'm not seeing any change yet. Personally, people will try to build the personal home, but in terms of, like, let's say the palais, if I could say, they're still the same. Like the cathedral is still the same. So there's nothing yet. It's been in the process.
What have been the major hurdles? Is it the political development of the nation's leadership? Is it deciding how to distribute the aid that you've received so far?
I think that it's both. It's a government, and at the same time, maybe the government here might be afraid to release the money. I'm not sure exactly, but in terms of the government back in Haiti, now their goal now is to have, like, for example, like a better life for the people. Okay, so.
In terms of state and national aid, have our leaders, in your opinion, stepped up and remained vigilant in helping rebuild the nation? To date, more than 500,000 people are still living in these tent villages.
I will say yes, but not 100%. Okay, but they are trying their best, if I could say. And I'm sure the president now, he's trying his best to, in a way, send the kids to school. That's his main focus. Okay, and without education in any nation, there is no future. So I think that's his main focus right now. Try to send more youth able to go to school.
Okay. What's next for this very proud and beautiful country, which, by the way, celebrated Independence Day on January 1st?
Yes.
How will local clergy, religious leaders contribute to the rebuilding? I'm sure you find very great reassurance in knowing that Bishop DiMarzio reaffirmed his continued support for the Haitian community.
Definitely, he's awesome. You know, he himself had gone to Haiti, I think twice after the earthquake, with Bishop Bensonhurst, and then what we long for to see for the country is that they may have a better life. Okay, in terms of, like, the youth, because they, again, as I said before, they are the future. Not just for the youth, but like that way they can be able to build up our churches that were damaged during the earthquake. Okay, but that's very important for us, like place for worship. Okay.
You're not alone in that hope.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you so much for joining us, Father Dello.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
God bless. Thank you.
Stay tuned. There's more currents ahead. When we return, an academy in Bensonhurst is at the head of the class. We'll find out why.
Teachers all know the children all know the teachers. You know, they feel comfortable talking to us.
They can be very devout, and they love to sing religious songs. We have prayer every morning.
And finally tonight, what do you need to make a school? Well, there are the obvious things: classrooms, textbooks, teachers, and of course students. And for many schools in Brooklyn and Queens, faith is at the center of it all. That is certainly the case at St. Mary, Mother of Jesus, St. Francis Cabrini Academy in Bensonhurst. It is one of the many Catholic academies in the Diocese of Brooklyn that is thriving, and it is our latest School of the Week.
If we lose wealth, we don't lose anything. If we lose our health, we lose something. But if we lose our character, we lose everything. Character is built in children through helping them to grow academically, emotionally, physically, socially, religiously, that's all part of their character.
Here we can teach our Catholic faith the morals that we find important and the values and the traditions of our Catholic faith so that we can pass those on to a new generation of children each year.
We have Jesus as our example, and we follow his example. We will think, how would Jesus handle this situation? Would Jesus have done this, you know? So we always have Jesus in the forefront, whereas I know with non-Catholic schools, you're not allowed to really discuss things like that.
Our academy has been in existence since 2006. We are the only Catholic school in the Bath Beach, Bensonhurst section.
Several years ago, I guess it's about maybe 6 or 7 years at this point, we noticed that our registration was declining, as was the registration in many of the local Catholic schools. And so we all were affected by that. Being one of the earlier academies, it was a little difficult for us because I think widespread, people didn't really know that this was going to happen. So it was, again, early on, a little more difficult for people to accept this notion of merging with different schools. It was hard to give up the old identity of our school and create a new one. But we managed to do that, and because of that, our registration now has grown, and we're successful as an academy, and I think we're here to stay. It would be great if more people understood the value of Catholic education in particular.
The children are happy here. They come in happy. They're always smiling. You always get a good morning from them.
The teachers all know the children all know the teachers. You know, they feel comfortable talking to us.
They can be very devout, and they love to sing religious songs. We have prayer every morning. They go home, their parents tell me they go home singing the songs and praying the prayers.
They do try their very best. They don't all have to be Einsteins, but whatever their best is all we ask of them.
So I think it's a very nice atmosphere.
Sometimes I feel that Catholic education is under fire, that in the secular world, the hostility that we sometimes get is that we're not up to par with them, and that's very mistaken.
They have these mindsets that we don't work as hard as they do, or that we don't have to follow the same core curriculum like they do, but we do.
Our teachers are just as well educated and have as many degrees as any public school teacher, and our results in many cases are well above theirs.
In society in general, there has been a turning away from religion. At least that's what's presented in the media. I don't think Americans in general are anti-religious. I think they're very religious people. So I do believe that religious education still holds a very important place in the life of our city and the life of our country. I always feel it's my privilege to teach our Catholic faith and traditions and the values that go along with those traditions.
We talk about in science how all life is sacred. Everything comes back to our teachings.
And I think those are so important today because there seems to be a lack of values.
Given a choice, I feel people really should send their children to a Catholic school.
I think parents are interested in having their children learn values.
And I think there is no better education than an education in a Catholic school. To me, that is the best, and we strive for the best, and I think we achieve that.
And that is all for this edition of Currents. Coming up tomorrow, we'll see how the Brooklyn Diocese Haitian Apostolate marked the 2-year anniversary of the earthquake in their homeland. Until then, be sure to visit us online at currentsny.net. You can also connect with us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. For all of us here at Currents, I'm Liz Faubles. Thank you for watching and have a great night.